Allie here. Thanks for checking out a past Truce with Food podcast episode. I'm chiming in to let you know something current that is happening this month, August 18th, 2026. I'm hosting my once a year Untangle Your Food Triggers, Catch Yourself Before You Fall Off Track free masterclass. You don't want to miss this if you really want to stop wasting your time on food. In this workshop, we're going to talk about the 4 triggers that bring on that urgent, buzzy, more energy with food, what's really happening underneath the surface at the root, and what 99.9% of approaches miss. And we're going to get into how to close the knowing and doing gap with food, plus much, much more. So come join us. You can register at the link in the show notes or at trucewithfood.com/consistency. And if you're listening to this after August 18th, know you can catch the recording for 1 week after. And this is a free preview of my Truce with Food consistency program that is open for registration August 10th through the 24th. Okay, we start in September, but registration ends in August. And this is the foundational course to learning how to close the knowing and doing gap with food. We always have a ton of Truce with Food podcast listeners at the workshop, and I hope you will join us for a rich, deep, paradigm-shifting conversation and workshop. Welcome to Truce with Food, the podcast where we stop fighting food and start addressing the deeper story of what you suspect is going on but can't put your finger on. Because the focus on food is a waste of your precious time, resources, and life.
One of the first things I started was in high school. I started starving Monday through Friday so that when I went out on a date on Friday night, I would feel good about myself. But then I'd go home after the date and I'd literally attack the refrigerator. And that became a pattern.
I'm your host, Allie Shapiro, an integrated health expert with a 19-year proven track record of client success. I'm a 33-year and counting cancer survivor and creator of the research-based Truce with Food framework that came out of my own personal experience from recovering from cancer and yo-yo dieting. Because you name it, I had tried it. I also have a master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania. I'm affectionately called people's last best resort and a coach's coach as people come to me when they've tried everything and nothing's worked long-term. This show is where we quiet the noise so we can go deep to get you the results you deserve. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute personal, individual, or medical advice. Now on to the show. One of the most powerful catalysts for change is someone else's story. Having someone else show you what is possible. And I think no one exemplifies that more than my guest today, Jenny. So Jenny is a client of mine who took Truce with Food consistency. And I invited her on today's podcast because after, in her words, spending her whole life focused on food and trying all the things, which included recovery from a very serious eating disorder, she found the missing piece in Truce with Food. And so today we're getting into her story of where she came from and where she is now, right? After really 4 decades of a struggle with food. And we're getting in today. She's going to share what she discovered her eating trigger was and how learning to get the needs associated with that trigger ended her binging. And we're really going to get into how her binging ended with no rules or 5-step plans or self-care things she had to do. And we're going to get into how it fell away naturally. We're going to talk about how she came into consistency, very, in her words, anti-exercise, and now loves swimming and moving in general as a way to process her emotions. We're also going to discuss the not so secret to getting out of all or nothing patterns. For Jenny particularly, this was around perfectionism. And we're going to get into how her program goal wasn't a weight loss goal, yet she ended up losing weight as a result of identifying her triggers and getting her emotional needs met. And then lastly, what's really different in her life today, from food to friends to having fun. This is such a great story. It's a really rich conversation. So I know if you're here, you like nuance and depth and the inner workings of change. And so no matter how long you've struggled with food, Jenny's story inspires you to realize change is possible. And if you, after listening to this, you want to take the first step to discover your own eating triggers of when it's not about the food, join me in my free upcoming workshop, Untangle Your Food Triggers, Catch Yourself Before You Fall Off Track, which is on August 18th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is 2026. I know sometimes people listen to these episodes years later. So this is current for this year. And this workshop is a sneak peek of my Truce with Food Consistency program, which is exactly where Jenny started. And it is now open for fall registration 2026. We kick off September 8th. Registration ends a couple weeks before then. And all of the details are in the show notes to the Truce with Food Consistency program, to also signing up for the free workshop. All right. Without further ado, enjoy today's episode and get a glimpse of what's possible for you when you really start to pay attention to that suspicion that something deeper is going on that's not about the food, yet you can't name it. Jenny's going to give us a lot of words and examples today around what that is. Enjoy. So Jenny, thank you so much for being here today. I know you're a little nervous. I said, I'm a little nervous because that's what happens, right?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And yes, I am incredibly nervous, but I'm grateful for this opportunity to share what I've experienced with other people, so hopefully they can understand how much this program works.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And for the listeners, Jenny took Truce with Food Consistency, which was, when she took it, it was called Why Am I Eating This Now? But this 3-month program. And 2 years ago, at this time she started, but I really like to have clients on after a couple of years, because so many programs, you hear from people while they're in it or when it just ended, and there's like this rigidity and everybody's maybe succeeding after 6 weeks. But once that rigidity and often the program and the group ends, things fall apart. And so that's actually not often the case with this work. It's slow and steady, which can be frustrating if you're used to like high intensity, but it actually lasts. And so Jenny took the program 2 years ago, but she has such a perspective now. But we will talk about the shifts in that 3-month program. So yeah, so I just wanted to preface that. So Jenny, no one gets to midlife without struggling with food, or try. I mean, most people, most women especially, and have tried a lot of things. So can you tell us about what was your history and what you had tried before?
I'm glad you brought that up because it's a very important part of my story. I come from a very eating disordered life of mine, beginning in elementary school, discovering that I was overweight when a third grade teacher had us make a bar graph of everybody's weights, and mine was the biggest. And we worked our way up to that together out loud in the class. So that was when I first realized it. And then by 6th grade, I was going to a doctor and just going in once a week and taking my clothes off, standing there in my underwear and getting weighed, and then going home. So that was how that was dealt with. And then I developed, lots of things happened. My whole life has been focused on eating and body image. And so then between 7th and 8th grade, I went restrictive. I found my first diet and 800 calories. And I kept track to the T in a journal, and exercised way so much every single day. So in the 3-month summer break between 7th and 8th, I lost 30 pounds. So then when I went back to school in 8th grade, all of a sudden I got all this attention, and I wasn't the geeky brain anymore. Oh my God, I was popular. And that meant everything to me. But you can't keep up that 800 calorie diet for years. And so I learned skills and tricks. And one of the first things I started was in high school, I started starving Monday through Friday so that when I went out on a date on Friday night, I would feel good about myself. But then I'd go home after the date and I'd literally attack the refrigerator. And that became a pattern. And then I learned about bulimia. There was a TV special, some show on prime time back in the day. I think you can probably find it on YouTube. I highly recommend you don't watch it. That's where I learned about bulimia. And then that became my life until I was about 40. So I've done a lot of treatment. I was hospitalized in college for the bulimia. I've done outpatient counseling and various mindfulness eating groups. And I mean, you name it. It's been something I've been working on my entire life, of course, because my whole quest has been to be skinny. And which I was at one point and didn't know it, of course. But anyway, now I know that, I got to the point where I couldn't be bulimic anymore. It was too hard on my body. And I started to have to accept myself and my weight. And that was a hard thing to do as well. I ended up getting divorced because I felt like I wasn't worthy as I started gaining weight. So you have literally my whole life is developed on this. Anyway, the point is that I've tried so many things. And then I got this email or something. I don't know how Allie got my name, but I got an email and it was a quiz for why am I eating this now? And I was in a bad place, and I thought, I'm just going to take this quiz and see, because I'm always searching for help that helps. And so I took the quiz, and then I thought, well, I think I'm going to sign up for this because it said, hint, it's not about the food. And that I've known my whole life, but it seemed like it was always about the food and any treatment plan I went into or any counseling or therapy I got. Now, this goes back, I'm 58, so this goes back many years, when eating disorders were just starting. And I was told so many times what I should be eating and that I should do a journal and keep track of what I'm eating and that I should be exercising, those things, which I knew. I mean, of course I know that, but there was some reason why I wasn't able to do those things. There was something there. Well, yeah, now I know there's traits and there's things that happen in my life that cause triggers, and we all have them. And when we identified that in the group, my trigger was loneliness, which I disbelieved because, yes, I'm isolated. I've been isolated my whole life because of my eating disorder. And I've known that I'm going to be isolated. And now I'm single. I never had kids because of it. And I thought, well, this is fine. I like it this way. I like being isolated. And I made my life as happy and pleasant as I could in an isolated bubble. So when we discovered it was my tail trigger was loneliness, I was like, oh no, there might be some truth to this. And that hurts. That's a hard emotion to grapple with. And I still haven't completely embraced it. And I'm still working on that because it's really hard for me to admit loneliness. And I want to feel it. I want to feel it somatically, not block it, not disassociate from it, not eat it down, eat it away, just eat it away and start new tomorrow. And my life will be better tomorrow. And for all these reasons that I've got lined up, and then the next day comes and the cycle repeats, and this goes on for years and years. So at first in the group, there was some vocabulary that I had trouble picking up on, but it was new. And I was, again, in a mode of like, oh my God, I got to get an A. So I got to learn this vocabulary. I even have to do a thing in the back of my notebook of definitions of all these words. Like I'd have like an index or something to refer to. I wanted to know it, but it was, again, my perfectionism was kicking in so greatly. And when Allie mentioned the C+ effort that she gave us permission to do this course with, that was a game changer for me because, the best in my life growing up was never good enough. So, what are you going to do? So I ended up giving up a lot and rebelling. So the C plus thing, I thought at first I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to get anything out of it if I do a C plus. And I thought, well, what are people going to think of me if I show up at a C plus? You know, they're going to say, why is she here? She's not trying, or, you know, all those thoughts. But then I thought about it more and I thought, okay, it's a nice way to think about going into this. I don't have to be the A plus student. I don't have to be the teacher's pet. I don't have to be the smartest girl in the room or the skinniest. And so, yeah, that helped me a lot to get into the program and ease in and let go of my perfectionism. And in that way, I was able to, like, I don't know, open up my mind and my heart more with curiosity and gentleness. And wow, that was a new feeling for me. And that really helped me. And I've integrated that curiosity and gentleness into my life and a lot of the things that I do since I started this program. I find it to be very effective and very soothing, and it's slow. For me, it's a slower process than, you know, losing 2 pounds in a day. but
Yeah.
it sticks. It sticks. It makes it doable. It makes you keep showing up. It makes you want to show up. It takes the
Yeah.
pressure. It takes the pressure off. That's what it is. Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
no pressure in this program.
Yeah, Jenny, you said so many things that I think so many people can relate to. And, you know, one of the things I think is so hard about when we struggle with our weight is people are like, oh, especially as we're adults, right? It's like, it doesn't matter. People will still love you, et cetera. But those early wounds of, wait, I'm getting attention. I'm popular when I'm thin, especially because as we are, you said eighth grade, right? That's when I really became aware of all of this too, as I started getting interested in boys and who did the boys like, you know. But peers are so important at that age developmentally. As we start to differentiate from our parents, we look to them. We even get our accents from our peers, like all of these things. And I think that feeling of loneliness, that it's about the food and it's not about the food. But I think so many people can relate to that because it builds on itself over decades. Because if you feel like you're only conditionally accepted by your peers and then how that translates into the outside world, I think it's something that just gets dismissed. Like, you shouldn't care what other people think versus, no, this is so fundamental to who we are as humans, to feel like we are accepted unconditionally instead of based on our weight or our grades or whatnot. So I like that you highlighted that and are aware of how that pattern led to this feeling of isolation over
Yeah.
it starts so early and then it just builds and we protect and protect and protect.
Right.
um, so
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate to that because I know a lot of my clients, myself included, we've struggled with our weight, you know, since forever. And it feels like it's just about the weight, but it's this deeper sense of, no, but this is when I was acknowledged. And so there's a real history there. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Thank you. Because while you were just talking, you led me to another, like, truce moment, which is like when things click in my brain in this program. Because all of a sudden, words and things that I have heard all my life, all of a sudden make sense. So yeah, like I said before, loneliness, I guess my feeling is that's a woe is me. And I don't want to be that person. But as you were talking, I realized it was belonging. And that is so important at that time. That means everything. So yeah, you'll risk a lot to belong, you know, and yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a soul deep need to belong is what I think it is, the hole in my gut, you know, that I keep filling with food.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it makes sense, which we'll get to. And I think your point about it not being about the food is so important. I also wanted to acknowledge because I have a lot of clients like you who have done a lot of work, right? I don't, for people listening, Jenny wasn't in an active eating disorder when she came to me. She had done so much work to get to that place of stability. And so I work with a lot of people who have a history of eating disorders, but aren't actively binging, purging, or whatnot. And to Jenny's point, a lot of my, of like, I knew something subtle. It wasn't about the food, but a lot of the focus is on food and what the work we've done to be stable. And so I've talked about some food stages here on the podcast. I have an assessment where you can find out where you are, but a lot of my clients think they're at the end of the road when really they're in this like stage 1, ready to be stage 2, where they've stabilized their eating disorders and now they can look at what's underneath them. So if you're
Yes.
listening and saying, oh, I've experienced so much of what Jenny has, maybe in a different format of like diets or therapy, we often think, oh, I've tried it all, but I'm not doing it all. When we're really just in that phase 1, ready to be in phase 2, when we're ready to address that deeper thing. So you
Yes.
articulated it so well. So I just wanted to put it in some
Yes.
of the Truce with Food language.
Right. And so, yeah, all the help that I've received throughout my life, I made it sound like it didn't help. But, like you said, it was where I was and what stage I was in my life. And yes, I was ready to find some peace, where you get to a point where you just want some peace. And then you get real with yourself like, okay, now, how can I go about this? I know what things help and I know what things don't help from the past. That doesn't mean there's not another option.
Yeah, no, I mean to stabilize an eating disorder takes incredible effort. And I just had chills when you said I finally wanted peace. To value that above thinness in our culture is
Yeah.
like fucking radical.
Yeah.
Right? I
It
mean, I
is.
remember when I was finally like ending, I was like, and I was so mean to myself. I'm like, well, I'm going to be fat for the rest of my life, but I just can't do this anymore. Like that, I was just like, I am exhausted. It was
Right.
just like it finally wore me out, but I was willing to at least, quote. And again, I was very mean to myself at the time, but it was just like, I need to be able to live my life without this in the center. But a lot of people never get there.
I was going to say, I'm really
Yeah, it's
glad
not
I'm
their
here.
fault.
I'm here
Yeah,
to experience this. I really am. I had, because
yeah,
there is a peace for sure. And there is somehow, it's not magic, but it feels like it as you go through the program because it's what it is it's like
yeah.
integration. So you get the structure from Allie, you get all of her knowledge, which is so vast, and you get time to process as you go through, and no judgment. It's compassionate witnessing from Allie and from the other women in the group who are all very different, but all have the same underlying thing where food is present in their lives, and it's not in a comforting way, and not in a way that we'd like it to be healthy. So Allie sets this up and takes you through the things step by step, kind of, and then she also repeats a lot, which was really helpful to me. And I suppose to everybody. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
That's, and it's
Right.
not repetitive. It's not like, oh, here we go again. It's like, oh, yeah, every time she repeats something and brings something back around, you add more to it and you understand it more and you integrate it more. And that's what happens. It's integration. It's not magic, but it feels like it is, because integration, what do? You can't go out and say, I'm going to go integrate today. It just happens. If you show up and you do your C plus, meaning sometimes I would show up into the group before having watched the pre-group video and such, and no big deal. Nobody knows, nobody cares. And then I was able to relax and take notes and listen when Allie was talking and everybody else was talking. I could work on my homework as we were in group, kind of listening along. And then afterwards, I would want to go back and watch the video. It never felt like, oh, I got to catch up, or, oh, I got to do this. It was a choice. That was the thing. And there was no rush to the end. There is no rush to the end, and which would normally have scared me, because I feel like you have to have a goal and you have to reach that goal. But the goal that we have in this group, the goal that I chose, was more like esoteric. I avoided numbers in every way, shape, and form, judgment, value systems, scales, anything like that was not involved in my goal. And I got real personal, and what do I really want? What do I really want? And I just threw it out there. I thought, well, let's see where this goes. I'm not going to sit here and think about how it could go wrong, what could go wrong, and then what if it does go wrong? How will I feel? Blah, blah, blah. I picked my goal. And that was a big turning point for me in the program when we were at that point where we picked a goal this last time around, the second goal. The first goal, I remember, it was good, but it wasn't as soul deep as the second goal I chose. And that goal I kept in mind all the time because it's something I want. It's not something I should or have to. So every day I would measure things like, well, I didn't measure because I don't do that anymore. But every day I would examine things in my brain like, is this true to my goal? To me, basically, is what I'm saying. Is this? It's for me in the end, and nothing really. I don't think really. I've never allowed myself that, and so that was a whole new way of living. And with the support all around from the group and from Allie, and it keeps me showing up. So there's no, I'm not running away from it and hiding from the truth.
Well, you said so many good things, Jenny. Because one of the things sometimes people ask are like, am I going to fall behind? How many hours a week does this take? And it sounds like I think they're bringing this idea of like, oh, this is about deprivation and like trying harder in these ways that aren't nourishing versus what you were saying is, for everyone listening, this structure is very flexible. We have people who come and go, but you ultimately want to do the work because it's so experiential. It gives you more layers of insight into yourself. And we're all like interested in ourselves, right? Like this self-awareness, we often think we're self-aware, but we're often self-monitoring. Like how Jenny talked about in the beginning of the group, like, oh, I don't have to get an A plus. I don't have to care about what other people are thinking about me or what I'm doing or what I'm saying. I mean, not that you turn that off, but we do some exercises like the second wind that Jenny was talking about, where you actually plan, how is this going to go off the rails? Like, how is real life going to find me? Because life is really lifey right now. So we actually plan for that. And then I do tend to attract perfectionists, people who are like, oh, like A plus. And often we don't even know the expectations we're bringing to something. Jenny, I remember when we did that exercise the first time, you're like, it was profound for you. And I think you said something along the lines like, I was holding on in ways I didn't even know I was, which is very typical of what happens. Like we think we have to get it all right, but the structure is very flexible and you just start to want to do it. And so I love that you brought that up. And then the other thing I wanted to say that I think is so important, and Jenny talked about the tail triggers. That's lesson 1 of the work. And then lesson 2 is like, what do these, and Jenny's trigger was loneliness. And the second lesson is, well, what are the emotional needs that we're using food with, but that don't actually do the job, right? We're retiring food from a job that it could never fulfill, but it almost works because of the sense of attachment chemicals that it stimulates. And what Jenny was talking about is when she came into consistency saying, I want peace, or what's important to me, one of the needs of loneliness is attuning to ourselves. It's not tuning to what the outside cultural world can tell us, right? Like, I should do this. I should want this from this program.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually like, what do I want? And
Yeah.
that, the more we can ask that and those layers, like Jenny, I mean, I'm putting the more academic framework or the more, research-based process about this, but what's your reaction when I say that? I'm like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were doing the attunement to start to satisfy that loneliness trigger so that food just becomes obsolete. It's not white knuckling it.
Yeah. That, once you get your tail trigger or triggers identified and you start doing the work on that, that's when food kind of goes out of the picture. And it happens really fast because then you realize that, okay, there's other things here. And, that's actually a relief. And it, like you said, it's fun to learn about yourself, not because it's fun, but because who doesn't want to feel better?
Yeah.
So that's that quest. It's cyclical, I also wanted to say, which at first, if you're a linear thinker and you're going to go, from 0 to 100 to find out how good you are and how high your number is, that might be a little weird for you to sit back and realize that, it just keeps going and keeps going around. And sometimes you go into a new groove and you feel like, yeah, wow, see, I'm getting it. I'm going to master this. And then life will put you back in a groove that you were just in a little while ago, you'll fall back into a groove, and you learn every time you return to those grooves, you learn more, if that makes sense. But that's how I see it now. And I just kind of feel like it's just like a ride that you're just on. There's really no destination at all except for peace.
Yeah. So when we think of, because again, this work is experiential and people, you have to kind of experience it to understand it, but I'm going to try to make it a little practical. So when you were talking about integration, what started to shift? Like when you can integrate some of these timeless truths that like you had heard, but right, there's that knowing and doing gap that we really address.
Yes.
In especially once you learn your tail triggers and needs, the third lesson of this is like, okay, now that I have reaction to having needs. So I have to work through that. And then in lesson 4, we work through, I loved how Jenny said in the beginning, I told myself, oh, I'm happy this way. Or we talk about all this protective resistance to change to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And so what those started to shift as you started to integrate and shrink that knowing and doing gap. What was in the 3 months? Because again, we've worked together now for quite some time, but in those 3 months, what started to shift during those 12 weeks?
Right now I really regret that I didn't go back to my old notes.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I wish I had now. I was thinking more in a big summary of things, but the knowing not doing gap, that phrase kept coming up, I remember. I also have a therapist because, I have a lot of things. So
Don't we all?
I recommend that because you can take things to your therapist as well. My therapist is right on board with this program with me and knows what's happening. But anyway,
what shifted? I mean,
oh,
you had
yeah,
mentioned the relief and the food shifting.
the
But
knowing
then
but
there's
not
also,
doing.
yeah. Oh,
That
yeah. Yeah.
that was big because I realized how often that happens in my life. And at first, it was just a realization that it's happening. But
Mm,
then to honor, my goal of self-acceptance, I realized that knowing but not doing is exactly what's kept me unhappy for, so long, or frustrated or discontent or whatever. And so then you're more aware of when that comes up and you owe it to yourself because that's how you gain self-trust. And you can't take care of yourself in a healthy way, I don't think, until you have that self-trust. So, and that was something Sass kind of said in her when she talked to us. It was something like, I wrote it on my board: I'll make helpful choices only when I feel safe and protected by my healthy self. So you're like, okay, healthy self. Let's narrow in on that. And that is the knowing, not doing gap is a great example of that. So you can kind of take one or two things that come up and then zoom in on them, be aware of them, and be real with yourself, and then get out of your comfort zone a little bit.
a
But
little bit
it's
is the key, right? We can't do all or nothing. That's part of getting,
yes,
that's part of
yes.
growth.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is I've learned how to do a little bit to set myself
Mm.
kind of up for success or set myself up for opting out. That is another thing that I've learned that it can happen, because maybe it's whatever you're told should happen isn't what you want to happen. And you have every right to say, this isn't working for me. And that is a really strong thing to be able to do in life. So it's helped me like with the swimming thing. I'm a swimmer in high school and everything, and I'm good at it. And it's the only sport I'm good at. Not that that matters, but it does make it a little more fun to do, you know, when you're good at something. So, anyways, I've always wanted to go, but there's the swimsuit thing, which is horrible, and it's just so unfortunate that swimming is such a naked sport. But now I see it. I also can wear this black cap, swim cap, and these black mirrored goggles. And I go walk right out of the locker room with my goggles on and my mirror on. And I figure in my unitard swimsuit, my knee suit, nobody knows who I am. Nobody can tell because I look totally different than what I do when I leave the locker room. So I twisted it to that. It's like, okay, actually, I'm in a swimming suit, but nobody knows who I am. So Anyway, so yeah, I started with a big challenge there. I wanted to start swimming when I moved to this little town from Madison 3 years ago. I thought I'll move here. I'll start swimming at that great tag center every, week or day or whatever. And my life will be so different and great. And so, well, you know what? It took about 3 years now, but it's happening. 3 years, that's a long time, a big chunk of life. And if I knew it would have taken 3 years, there's no way I would have even approached it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a progressive thing. So I didn't even realize it was happening in that sense. So anyways, when I went swimming, that was a big deal. And I was hiding around the fact that one of my goals is exercise. I was in a denial of it. But it came up towards the end here. And I'm like, Jenny, this is this big thing for you. Why do you have such an aversion to exercise? And I could never understand what it was. Was it just that I couldn't do anything to feel good about myself? I don't know. I still don't really know. But what I did to take on the swimming thing was I set myself up like we've learned to foresee what could possibly happen, and how can I deal with that? So I like prepared myself. I bought this notebook and I called it my swim experiment. No, swim experience. It was actually an experience, which is even like more freeing than an experiment. And I thought, I'm just going to take this slow and steady because that's how I needed to process things. If I go right in and buy my membership and jump in the pool and be like, here I am, going to be this big swimmer, chances are it won't hang in there. So I thought, what do I need? What does my nervous system need? How can I do this gently? And so I called first and asked questions and had a lot of great information, which I was really grateful for. They gave me a lot of time on the phone, so that was nice. And then I went in and did a tour and got to go in the locker room and look at the pool and get a feel for it. So it wasn't so shocking when I actually went there to swim. And then I left and then I thought about it. I thought, I got time. There's no big hurry. And I went back and I bought the membership, but I still didn't swim. I again went in the locker room and looked at the pool and got the vibes of the whole place again, just to feel a little bit more comfortable. And this whole time I've had the notebook with me, and I wrote in it. So after every experience, I wrote like what I felt, what was funny, what was geeky, what was weird, what was good, and just let it go at that. And knowing at any time, I don't have to do this. There's nothing that if I go out there in a swimming suit and it really destroys me psychologically, I don't have to continue. I can write it in this book. I can take this to my therapist. I can use this stuff in Truce. It can be things that I can work towards. I can try to understand where that deep scar psychologically came from, but that didn't happen. It was awkward, but I wrote about it and I made it kind of funny. So I wrote in that book 4 times, I think, but now I don't write it anymore. I look forward to going. Oh, I'm not keeping count. The thing I joined was 20 visits for $40 for the summer. And I'm not keeping track. I figure when I get to number 20 and I walk in and they're like 21, they're like, sorry, your visits are up. I'll be like, how do I feel? Do I feel disappointed? Well, then I'm going to sign up for more. Or if I feel almost relieved, then I know, okay, well, let's take a break. So I don't know. It's just given me an option. And that helps with the knowing, not doing, to know that there are other options and other ways to approach these things and you can have your own back.
Oh my God, you just said that was such an exquisite example of really what Jenny's describing is in lesson 4, we get into how we think in all or nothing, right? Like Jenny, you said before, I didn't even know how to do a little bit, right? And Jenny talked about survivor self, healthy adult self. Our survivor self is the one that isn't coachable, is not going to do what we want to do. It turns to food because it feels so unsafe. And the work that we do is not to have like, oh, let's pretend that we're suddenly so comfortable in a bathing suit and we're going to be the athletic swimmer we were in high school.
Right.
It's like we got to be with real life. But what happens is when we feel so unsafe, we go into our heads and we spiral, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we get into all or nothing, either or.
Yes.
And we can't actually find this middle way, which is the work. And so what
Yes.
Jenny is talking about, integration, the knowing but not doing gap, is about actually feeling our way into what we need. That's how we stop turning to food, but that's also how we feel, quote unquote, emotionally satisfied, and that we can do big things, like do the things we want to do as we grow what we call our healthy adult self, which
Right.
to do that, you have to bring your body online. You have to bring your body in the season of life that you're into, and reality. You have to bring reality online. And so when Jenny was saying, like, I did a little bit to get comfortable, more and more comfortable,
Mhm.
that's how you
Mhm.
win. I mean, we don't even use win or lose, but succeed
Mhm.
or failure, but that's how you move forward. And then she was like, okay, I'm going to, after 40 visits, let me see how I feel. And that's where the self-awareness that we're talking about comes on. Self-awareness is not, oh my God, did I get my money's worth? Am I doing good? Am I doing bad? Am I right, Jenny? You said, like, I wasn't like, I have to do laps. How many laps? Am I getting my zone do training? Am I getting my spring? It's like,
Right.
let me start to see, how does this feel for me after the good old college try of 40 visits? But so many of us, that's the self-awareness that we're actually cultivating, and that feels good. So you can start to relax into the process. It doesn't mean that you don't have goals or you're not moving forward, but if it doesn't
Right.
feel good, it's not going to be sustainable. But that flexibility, that option, we call it option C in Truce with Food, is because Jenny has built so much capacity by going slow and steady to say, I got me. If this feels like it's not for me anymore, I'm going to take myself out of this. But I actually have an accurate sense now because I'm bringing my body online. We don't abandon our brains, but when we feel unsafe, our brains go into all or nothing. You aren't an all or nothing person. It's you feeling under threat, but it's also, so when we feel emotionally unsafe, we spiral, we get hyper vigilant. Some people think, like, I am hyper vigilant. That just tells me that your survivor self is bigger than your healthy adult self in certain situations, which again makes sense because, like Jenny said, based on real past experiences. And the work, though, is to not try to beat yourself into submission or battle yourself with perfectionist plans, right? Like
Yes.
Jenny said, I'm going to call. Oh,
Yes.
they gave me time. This is a safe place. I'm going to get familiar with the environment. I feel safer here. Because if you try to do all, you essentially keep the cycle going. It's like restricting and binging, restricting and binging. And so we have to be able to trust in this moderate path. And so that's really, like, Jenny just gave us a masterclass on how to actually shrink the knowing and doing gap. And I'm just telling you the quote unquote mechanisms of action
Yeah.
underneath is that it's working because you're retraining your system to say, I got me. I'm going to look at my needs. I'm going to get those met. And then the food doesn't have a job anymore. Right. So I
No.
just said a lot, Jenny, but you just gave such
Yeah.
a great example. I was like, I got to highlight what's happening.
And you just brought up like a lot of action words, which is something else that I learned because I do spiral and shut down. And then I end up feeling virtually paralyzed, and it's a freeze, I don't know, flight, whatever. But that has been a big part of me because I will just go to a paralyzed state and do nothing. And so just showing up, okay, that's movement. I just realized that's actual movement. And then going to the pool, doing baby steps. For me, I started doing things in the community, volunteering with these groups that I love, a nature center group, and coming from a very, very socially uncomfortable place and persona and personality, it was very challenging. But every single time I went and just showed up, it got easier and easier. And now I've known these people for 2 years, and we just see each other at events related to the nature center. And I have these friends now, and they really feel like friends. I mean, like I think they'd come to my funeral, So that's new. But anyway, so doing those little things, that momentum, that is such a big word. It's so important. And I would skip right over that always. I'd go from, get it all now, or strive for the best now, or, do it hard and fast. And the momentum would never would never even get a chance to come up. So yeah, there's a movement thing. So movement is so important. And I learned this with this group too. It really helps emotionally, just movement, whether it's, walking or, anything. It doesn't even have to be like counting steps for sure. I mean, even just a stroll through a park is movement, and how helpful that is. Getting outside and, being seen in the world in little steps cause this momentum to grow and grow. And that's what leads to the consistency, which means I keep showing up. And then eventually get more and more comfortable. Before you know it, I'm talking without thinking about what I'm saying, without getting red in the face for the most part. And things are coming along easier, and I'm actually having fun. And that, I have to admit, is something that is brand new to me in my lifetime, where it's been genuine, because I've never was comfortable letting loose or being around people and letting my guard down ever. So being able to do that now, at first when I started doing it, I was like, oh no, Jenny, oh my God. Oh, this is scary. You're getting out there, oh my gosh. But now, like I went to this little event the other day and a birthday party, and I was talking quite a bit. And you know what? Part of me thought, am I talking too much? But then, you know what? I left. I felt so good. I thought, God, that was fun. And so, your perspective changes on what matters is the whole thing. It doesn't really matter if I was talking too much. So what? We were all stuck there at a table. Somebody had to do the talking. Maybe they were grateful for it. But
Yeah.
your perspective changes. It's not about the external anymore. And that's another thing too. I started being able to look and say, okay, now the feeling I'm having right now, is that because that person doesn't like me? Or is it because that person maybe has a backache today? Those kind of things. Those kind of things really opened up for me. Those like dialectical behavior therapy types of things. Like, what else could be going on here? And we also got into that quite a bit. So it takes the focus off yourself in a negative way. And I don't know, it all just, like I said, it integrated, and it's best I've ever felt in my life. I have lost weight, but that wasn't my goal. But that's good anyway for my health. And at first that was scary, because I thought that I was going to get all wrapped up again. Yeah, but I haven't. And the food, again, back to the food, which, like I said, really doesn't come up very often at all.
I have so many people are like, it's so crazy. Like, we're here for food, but we're barely talking about it.
But I have to say this, and I wish I could tell you guys all why, but I guess like I said, everybody's got a different tail triggers or different things that happen to them, or how they feel about things in life. So no one's program is the same. So there's no way of saying this is what's going to happen to you. So I just no longer have the urge to binge. And that's because I feel like I have my back, and binging is like a betrayal of myself, really. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel that anymore, because that's not what has become something I value. And it just doesn't line up with my goal of wanting, to be accepted and to be at peace. So I guess somehow that happened. And I have I have a lot of food in my house, and I have bags of literally, bags of potato chips. I don't follow any kind of diet anymore. I am vegetarian and have been for many years, 40 years or 30 years. But so I follow that, but that's just because of moral reasons. And what I do is I've learned to allow things. So I'm not restricting, and I don't let that restriction run my life. And I allow things. And then by doing that and by having my own back, the potato chips bags last in my pantry for, I say, weeks, you guys. Sometimes I forget, because I'll pull a bag out from underneath other stuff, and here's a potato chips all crumbled at the bottom in a bag. And I'm like, oh, I forgot I had these. Literally, that happens, when before I would restrict. So I wouldn't allow that stuff in my house. So I would crave it. And so if I did get it in the house, it had to be gone that night, so I could start again the next day, start new, start clean. It would be gone. I would eat it. It would be gone, out of sight, out of mind. But then I learned with this program, all of a sudden I had this realization that I have the option here. I don't have to eat all this tonight before I go to bed. If it's a food that I know that I'll be thinking about all night, I'll be honest with myself. I'll take it over the sink and soak it in water and throw it in the garbage. And it's gone then. But if it's something that I think I can handle and deal with and would like to have again tomorrow, I can put it away. I can save it, put it back in the refrigerator, put it back in the cupboard, and then go to bed. And so that is when I developed my theory of, I wrote it on my board. This is my own motto. I had two mottos: save it or soak it, instead of suck it to show up for me. Because, and I was like, okay, I can do this. I can save it. I don't have to hurt myself with this. I don't have to do that. And then I just, I don't know, that changed things. Yeah. I mean, I still, have hard times, of course, very hard times at times, but I always come out of them and I learn from them, and I'm not perfect. I'm human. I'm learning balance, and I'm learning how to listen to myself. I'm thrilled. I want to do this stuff forever because I can, the need will always be there. You can always, when your whole life has been devoted to this, the whole rest of my life can be, but it's on the opposite end of the spectrum. Devoted to it in actually a healthy way where I'm taking care of myself, which is brand new. And really, guys, that's really big for me. I think a lot of the women in the group had some feelings like they wanted to learn how to nurture themselves, and mother ourselves is a big thing. But that's such a broad statement. You're like, how do I do that? That sounds so pretty. But you'll figure it out, because you have to learn what you need and what you want. And then you can start providing that to yourself.
Well, and I love that you said so many good things. But one of the things I think, comes up a lot of people do stop binging from, it may take consistency plus the program after that. But what you said was, like, I don't know how it stopped. There aren't rules of like, bring food in the house, don't bring food in the house. And there's certain things, but what Jenny said about like, I have my own back, that when you say, what do I need? I want to go swimming again, right? Those things, or I want to be social, or I'm going to talk a lot and I'm not going to take myself so seriously that I ruin the night because I talk so much. Or like when you start to, the paradox is you start to realize like not everything's about you. Whereas before you think everyone's like paying attention to you, but you also feel more significant because you're doing what you want. But what happens is that is the practical way that we grow our belonging as adults, is we start to say, what feels good? What do I want? And so that's how you end, whether it's binging, nighttime eating. In the workshop that I'm giving on, I forget the date, I should have known when we're recording this, but I'll say it at the top of the episode. I'm going to talk about how whatever you call your disordered eating, again, not eating disorders, but whether it's from binging to overeating, to mindless eating, to nighttime eating. It's just about the degree of loneliness, or not necessarily loneliness, everyone has different triggers, but the degree that your needs aren't getting met. So for those of us who have binged, like Jenny and me, it's like we had really, it wasn't necessarily a ton of needs, but it was layers of needs that needed to be acknowledged, right? And that loneliness trigger. For some people, it's the tired trigger, right? The uncertainty, inadequacy. But the binging goes away because you start to nourish yourself with your true needs, not through any rules or regulations. It's just like kind of
right.
And that's what I think Jenny means. It's like magical, but it's also like it's not magical. Like there's a very structure in Truce that helps you get there, but it's not the way that I used to approach it. Oh my God, try to, take a walk, or all these things that weren't really addressing the belonging urge and primal need underneath. So I just wanted to say that, because so many people are like, okay, my binging ended, but I don't know what I did. Like, you had your own back. Like, And
And
we're
I
not,
like
we're very,
what you just
yeah,
said
go
was
ahead.
another thing that just hit me, because I've been thinking this whole time, like, I feel like I'm growing up. But that, you're like, oh my God, 58 and I'm finally growing up, how sad. But it's not growing up. It's what you just said. I'm growing my belonging.
Mm-hmm.
That, oh man, that feels so good. I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Such a great thing to feel in life.
Yeah. Well, and it's self-actualization. And we live culturally. I'm so big on cultural conditioning because we're in a patho-adolescent culture. We don't have a lot of people who have grown up. We all get old, but we don't necessarily grow up and mature. And
Mm-hmm.
so the fact that that you got out of the eating disorder matrix, which is part of that patho-adolescent culture, and the fact that you are maturing in our culture, right, is really radical and rebellious because everything that we are told is normal is very like arrested development, in my opinion.
Yeah. And plus, arrested development is protective
Yeah.
in our society.
Yeah.
They,
It's hard growing up. I like still
Mhm.
want my parents to rescue me. Like, you know what I mean?
I want everybody to like me.
I know. I still want them to say, "Do you need a snack? Give me a snack." You know what I mean? I'll pay the mortgage again. It's like I don't blame anyone.
Yeah.
So
But it's deeper than that. It's belonging.
yeah.
And that means to yourself and within the world that you can develop around yourself.
Well, and I love the specific examples you gave us. I think that's tangible that people can really understand that, like, when you were talking, I was thinking about how, like, I so often forget, like, we have an ice cream maker and, like, I'll make these different flavors for Essa. And, like, whenever I'm like flipping through the freezer to find frozen broccoli that we are going to grill again for dinner because we don't have we don't love to cook in this house. We're working on it, but I'll find those ice creams and it like still gives me
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I used to obsess about this. And again,
Yeah.
I've had a truce with food for like 20 years now, but I'm still like, I am so grateful that like I can forget this is here. Like it speaks to the work that we've done. So I totally get that feeling too of
For
gratitude
sure.
and humbleness and awe. It's just like, oh, I'm so glad I'm
And
not there anymore.
yeah, another thing I learned was the option C, I guess, in the knowing, not doing, kind of in the messy middle kind of stuff, is that, okay, I'm craving a strawberry shortcake because it's summer. Okay. I just crave it for one day. And it's like, well, you know what? I can make that in a way. Let's be creative in a way that is delicious and I enjoy eating and I don't hurt myself eating it. So like I'll use a vanilla Greek yogurt and I'll nuke some frozen strawberries from the freezer. And then I treat myself to one of those little, I'm not meticulously counting things, but what I'm trying to say is I'm bringing things into my life that I want to eat rather than not eating them at all, especially
Yay!
holidays and seasonal stuff and things like that. I'll figure out a way to incorporate it where it's healthier. And then I'll let myself eat it. And then you know what? I don't want to eat it anymore. That's the greatest part. I'm strawberry shortcake. I just means nothing to me right now because I had allowed myself to eat it in a good, caring way. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I think I just want to circle back to when you bring your body online, instead of thinking I'm being good, I'm being bad around food, and that's
Yeah.
self monitoring. When you bring the body online, you realize like I can be moderate. Like I'm actually registering because I know when I was binging, it was like the first couple bites tasted good, but then like after that, it was not like I was just essentially now I have language. I was in a freeze, like shame spiral. So I couldn't feel anything. And so I think that's kind of, and again, we get into all of this. I loved how Jenny, I'm going to circle back again, talked about feeling our feelings because a lot of the traditional advice wants us to just like sit with them. But if you think about emotions, it's like motion, it needs motion. And so lesson 3 in consistency, we get into how do I actually work through the emotions that come up about having needs and my tail triggers. So Jenny mentioned that, but I wanted to circle back. But that's also how we start to realize and bring the body online of like, wait, does this really feel good after several bites? Or, and again, binging is like, we feel so alone that we're not going to stop that. And that's not the goal, but it's to start to bring the body online to notice the tail triggers and the needs and what feels good. So
Yeah, you can start tweaking your own vocabulary. So you start to choose words that are movement oriented and action oriented. Like I'll say, I want to explore something rather than I'm going to do it, or I don't know, I have to go. Change my mind because I was anti exercise when I started this program. And so I worked hard at finding ways to tweak my words so that there is movement involved. So I get this propulsion feeling, this leading feeling about things without having it be like must do this, must exercise. So if you can just start changing the way you're even thinking and opening up to like movement in your vocabulary, I find it coming up a lot. I'll say a word, I'll be like, wait, there's a better word I can use for that. And then that mentally is a movement thing. It's a momentum. Again, it takes me forward rather than keeping me frozen or actually, giving up. So yeah, that's
I
a neat thing
love
to
that
do.
insight.
Yeah.
Because you're making me think about how like I have to, it's so pressure filled versus once you identify what you need, it does is like, it's like, I'm choosing this, right? It's agency instead of pressure.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I
is what
work
it's not
best
meant
without any force.
Me
And
too.
force is a movement thing too. But that's not the movement that I go good with. You guys, I like to find my own words that help me get through, help me rethink things so that it's more something that I'm willing to do than something that I need to do.
Yeah. Oh my God. Brilliant. Jenny, your story, I think, is so inspiring. And I think people who have struggled for decades, like most of my clients have, are just going to feel like a world of possibility is available to them. So thank you. One last thing, what would you say to someone considering consistency who,
Mm,
yeah, what
yeah,
would you?
I'm so glad I had this opportunity to talk about it, to let it be known. This is a word of mouth thing right now, and getting out by word of mouth. And I'm glad I'm able to express how helpful it has been to me, and that hopefully other people will give this a try. You just got to give it a try. Might work for you, might not, but it is different. It is a different program than anything I've ever experienced, and I'm so grateful for it.
Thanks, Jenny. And anything you want to say that I didn't ask you, or we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we did. I know.
I know. I love it. The discussions in the group are so rich.
Like, I'm doing it for myself. That's a big thing. Let's see. Yeah, I truly like my life now. That's the last thing I wrote.
Oh,
I was getting this ready. That's crazy to say.
oh, you put in the work, Jenny. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, it didn't, honestly, it touches on heavy stuff, but it doesn't feel too hard. It's a gentle program.
Yeah. That's how we digest and metabolize the heavy stuff.
Right.
Not all or nothing.
Right.
And we do it in a group so that we can share the load, right? There's something so magical about realizing you're not alone with the heavy stuff. So,
Indeed. Thank you so much, Allie.
yeah, thank you, Jenny.